So it's been a while since I've been able to do an old school review like this, but I've got to talk about this movie because it's not just a movie. This is the end of an era. This is a once in a generation event. I'm talking, of course, about Avengers Endgame, the 23rd, I think, 22nd, 23rd movie in the entire MCU. Now, I know that there's a lot of people who haven't had a chance to see the movie yet. The first part of this video will be non-spoiler, and then later on in the video, I'll let you know if I'm getting ready to talk spoilers. So many people have asked me since I saw this movie what I thought about it. And it took me a long time to find the right words, and I've got to use this word because I hate this word, because it's a word that people use until it doesn't mean anything. But this movie was truly epic. This is just the grandest cinematic thing I think I've ever seen in my life. I really feel like you need to be a Marvel fan if you're watching this movie. Marvel's done a pretty good job so far of making sure that you don't have to have seen all of their movies in order to kind of appreciate like Black Panther or Doctor Strange or anything like that. But this movie, if you haven't seen all of what Marvel's done, I really don't see how you're going to appreciate this film. This movie is a joyful celebration of what Marvel has accomplished over the last 10 or 11 years. This movie is a tour de force, a grand tour of the entire MCU. And once you see the movie, you'll understand exactly what I mean by that. These guys are just celebrating and high-fiving and just, it's almost like a victory lap in some ways. It's like, remember when Marvel did this? Remember when we did this thing? Remember this thing? It's just incredible. And I couldn't believe some of the stuff that they were doing. It's like, oh, we're back here now, and oh, we're doing this. I couldn't believe it. And there are so many characters in this movie. They brought back all of these actors to reprise these roles. Dozens and dozens of characters. Sometimes it's just a cameo. They're not even really doing anything, but just the fact that they managed to get everybody, almost everybody who's been in a Marvel film to be a part of this project, it's just unbelievable. The story is thick. It is a very dense movie. This film is like 3 hours long and they use every single minute of it. I actually made it all the way through the film without having to get up and pee or anything. So I saw the entire movie. You can do it too, but it's a very dense movie. It's one that I probably won't watch a whole lot. You know, some of Marvel's movies I've seen them multiple times because I just love them. And this is not a movie that I feel like I'm going to watch. Like, I'll probably go see it again in theaters to see it one more time, but there's a lot there. The story is surprising in some ways. Like, you watch the trailers for this movie, and so you think you have an idea of what's going to happen, and I was completely wrong about, like, within the first, 20 minutes, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Whoa, really? So the movie surprised me in a lot of ways, which is good. It surprised me with some of the choices they made with the characters in the movie. Again, I really want to not spoil things, but just there are some characters in this movie that they decided to do something with, and I was like, whoa. I was not expecting that, and they committed to it too. I kept thinking they're gonna change that or they're gonna fix that later in the movie, and they're like, nope, we're doing this. We're committing to that. And even if I don't necessarily agree with or like some of those character choices, just the fact that they had the guts to make that decision and to stick with it, it's an incredibly ambitious, that's a good word, it's an ambitious movie. I like the movie a lot, but I feel like Avengers Infinity War was a better movie. It's just tighter, there's less sort of fat that needs to get trimmed off. But honestly, I feel like for what this movie had to accomplish in terms of wrapping up all of these story points and being the conclusion of this massive story that they've been telling for the last decade, I don't really see how this movie could have been less than what it was. I feel like Infinity War is probably a better film, but the movie itself is just, like, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It's like the last 20 minutes of this movie, I could not believe it. I was sitting there and I was like, I can't believe this is real life. It is the stuff that comic book dreams are made out of. I really hate to say this, but I feel like this movie has knocked Thanos down a couple of levels in the terms of being one of the most amazing villains I've ever seen. And I was afraid of that because in Avengers Infinity War, Thanos was such an incredibly compelling character. Like, yeah, he was the bad guy, but like you got where he was coming from. Even if you didn't necessarily agree with him, you were kind of like, not wrong. And it's just the fact that he was relatable and he was so passionate and so committed to his cause, and he genuinely believed that what he was doing was the right thing to do. And I feel like in this movie, he just kind of became more of like a one-dimensional bad guy. And I was really afraid of that. And I was like, he's not as interesting as he was in the last movie. I feel like this movie at this point is like a victim of its own hype, right? There is so much hype. This might be the most hyped movie like of all time. There's almost no way that this film can completely live up to that level of expectation. I think it's a really good movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But if you go in and you want to see the culmination of this MCU story, I think you're going to be very satisfied. That's another word that I would use to describe this film, is satisfying. If they never made another movie ever, if Marvel was like, we're done, this is the last thing we're ever going to do, this is the last comic book movie you'll ever get to watch, I feel like the audience would be like, okay, we're good. And I know they've got more movies coming, like there's another Guardians of the Galaxy movie coming, there's another, I think there's a Doctor Strange 2 and a Black Panther 2 and some other stuff like that. But you're going to walk out of this movie, if you're a fan like I am, and you're going to feel like you had a good meal, where you eat so much that you just get kind of sleepy and sick and full. That's how I felt leaving this movie. I was just like, that was truly enough. Again, it's a 3-hour movie. It doesn't always feel like a 3-hour movie, but I think there were a couple of scenes here and there where I was like, they could have maybe trimmed that up. I'm gonna give this movie, I think, an 8 out of 10. For Marvel fans, for fans of the franchise, it is truly a dream come true. Okay, now let's talk about spoilers, alright? This is where the spoilers start. If you haven't seen the movie, go ahead and stop it right now. You can go watch my Captain Marvel movie or something, or click on any of the other videos that I've got on my channel. I hope you enjoy it. But from this moment on, we're gonna talk about spoilers. And there are so many moments from this movie that I just couldn't believe I was seeing. Oh my gosh, there are so many moments like Thor basically dual wielding his hammer and his axe. Like, what? Went like this, and they both came to him, and he was like, I'm gonna jack Thanos up with both of these. Captain America wielding Thor's hammer. We saw a teeny tiny little preview of that in Age of Ultron, but to see him actually pick up Thor's hammer and start rocking out with it with his shield in this hand and the hammer in the other and just going off on Thanos, like, what? The end of this movie where everybody shows up and Sam is like, hey, Cat, on your left. There were so many lines in this movie, so many one-liners, where every single person got to throw in a one-liner or something that's been like an iconic thing from their history. On your left, when Tony Stark got the gauntlet and was like, and I am Iron Man, ba-bam, that's a reference to the very first movie. Captain America finally said, Avengers, assemble. If he hadn't done that in this movie, I'd have been mad. I was waiting. We've been waiting this entire time to hear Avengers, assemble. I was honestly a little disappointed because he kind of made it quiet. He's like, Avengers, assemble. And it was supposed to be like this quiet, intense thing, but I wanted like, Avengers, assemble, But he still said it. It was great. Yeah, man, when all of these people show up at the end of this movie from these little Doctor Strange portals, and it's like all of Wakanda and all of like the Kamartaj people and like the Asgardians and all the Avengers that are still alive, right? Because some of them didn't come back, like Vision didn't make it back, Gamora didn't really make it back, she kind of did, but not quite. And at the end of this movie, you just had this massive, insane brawl with like Thanos and his whole army versus the entire MCU. I'm watching this and I'm like, we've got people flying around in Iron Man suits next to Spider-Man who's swinging around with a gauntlet under his arm because I kind of played football with it, next to a chick who's riding a flying horse with wings. I was like, is this real life? I can't believe this. Oh my gosh, we got to watch Captain America fight Captain America in like a previous timeline. So let's talk about some of the time travel stuff, because there were rumors online that time travel was going to factor into this. Really, they're kind of going through the quantum realm doing stuff, but basically time travel is what it is. I'm really happy that Ant-Man Scott Lang got to play as large of a role in this movie as he did. I wasn't expecting that, but he's really the one that made the difference, which is cool. So they start running through time, visiting all of these iconic locations in their movies. They go back to the first Avengers movie, they go back to the first Guardians movie, they go back to Thor: The Dark World, and it was just so cool because it was like the most meta thing ever, right? Like, you've got these Avengers characters looking at themselves doing what they've already done and being like, oh my gosh, that's so stupid. Like, you know, it was just so much fun. It was just fun. Now, as with any movie that has time travel stuff in it, right? There are pieces that don't make sense. If you just grab this thread of the story and you pull it too far, it starts to be like, well, wait a minute, what about this? Or why that doesn't mean. There's a great sci-fi movie called Looper from several years ago. It's like Bruce Willis and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, I think his name is. It's a great movie. Check it out if you haven't seen it. But in Looper, Bruce Willis has this great scene where he's talking to his younger self, and he basically just addresses time travel real quick, and he's like, look, don't spend too much time thinking about time travel because your brain will shut down. Like, we could sit here all day long and debate about, well, if you didn't do this and this wouldn't happen, which wouldn't change anything, which means you never went back in the first place. He's like, forget all that stuff. Just forget it. Like, you're wasting your time. And I actually really appreciated that scene because you could argue that it seemed like kind of a cop-out, like the writers being like, no, don't pay attention to that. Just watch the movie, which it kind of is. But I felt kind of like that when I was watching this movie. I was like, Hulk explained a little bit of it, and then the Ancient One who came back for this movie explained a little bit of it. And it's just like, you know what? If you're going on this journey with us in this movie, you're going to have to just go with it, right? Like, just come along for the ride and enjoy it. So because of that, though, I did kind of take some points away from the movie because it is like, okay, I'm going to have to turn my brain off in some ways to just enjoy this, but it is so enjoyable. It is such an incredibly fun ride. They attack Thanos, they go find him on this other planet, they cut his arm off, they cut his head off, and that's it! I thought that was going to be the plot of the movie. I thought the whole 3-hour film was going to be them like kind of rallying and getting back together and coming up with a plan and going after Thanos. And they did that in like the first 25 minutes of the movie and just cut his head off and that was it. And I was like, oh, okay, what are we going to do for the rest of the 2.5 hours? And then these words come up on the screen 5 years later. I was like, what? 5 years later? They've just been living like this for 5 years? So whatever the next Marvel movies are that they make, they're going to have to deal with the fact that these people have been dead for 5 years. And the people who survived Thanos have just, that's been their life. That's been their status quo. They just grieved and dealt with it and maybe moved on. And all of a sudden these people are back again. Like, that's huge. Like, if you're married and your spouse vanishes and 5 years later they just show up again, you might have gotten remarried. They might show up thinking, what just happened? Where have I, what, you know, nothing's happened. And you might be like, oh, this is my new spouse and my kid. Like, they're going to have to deal with that. That's huge. I hate to say it, but I still feel like Captain Marvel just really isn't that interesting. I mean, I'm not going to say she sucks, but she's just kind of boring. She's just kind of there. I was really hoping for more from that character, but even in her movie, the Captain Marvel movie, she was just kind of like, okay. And she's not even really in this movie a whole lot. Like, she's there at the beginning. She helps them get Thanos and kill him, excuse me. And then she shows up at the end. She just like flies out of the sky and is like, hey guys, sorry I'm late. And like just takes out a ship by herself, you know? I am fully satisfied as a childhood comic book fan. If I never see another comic book movie ever, if I just have to ride off in the sunset from now on and be a grown-up for the rest of my life, I'm good. I've seen everybody that I ever wanted to see on the big screen. I got to see Black Panther. I got to see Wonder Woman. There's an Aquaman movie and it's great. Like, really? Anyway, guys, that's enough. This video is super, super long. If you're still watching by now, God bless you. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for checking out my channel. I've got a ton of other stuff here for you, including not only just movie reviews and stuff, but I do play music for a living, and I've got music videos, original stuff that I've written. I have a series called the Hero Song Remix where I do like cool, like just music mashups of superhero theme songs. Please check that out. I'm extremely proud of how those mashups turned out. I've got a series called The Hymn Project where I do my versions of hymns. I'm really proud of that. And I've got a series called Geek Theology, where I talk about comics and anime and nerd stuff, particularly for all of you Game of Thrones fans, because we're watching the series finale right now. It comes on tonight. Today's Sunday, and I can't wait to see what happens next. So check out Geek Theology. Look at some other stuff around my channel, and if you see something you like, please do send it to some friends. Don't forget to subscribe. I have no idea the next video I'm going to make. I'm just going to be honest with you. Like, I don't even know what I would do as a review now. Like, maybe I could do one for the end of Game of Thrones, but like, I don't know. Well, I'm not sure the next time I'll see you, but thanks a lot, and we'll catch you next time. Stay cool, stay blessed, stay in touch.